All right, so I am going live today with Lillian Merrill. So, Lillian Merrill, okay, filmmaker. Yay, she's here. Okay, filmmaker, film premiered. Rebecca. Okay, awesome. All right, so I pin this comment so everyone knows. Ask questions. I'm inviting Lillian. Our goal is to keep this concise, go through some of her creative habits, and hear what's up with her for quarantine. Hi.
Hi.
So were we in a documentary making class together?
We were in an acting class together.
Yes, acting one.
Yes.
I remember that. I remember I had a scene where I like almost had to kiss somebody.
Ooh.
do,
Yeah, I think
do you
we were
remember
doing.
your scene?
Yeah, I also had. It was very uncomfortable. I had to be like in a couple, and like the teacher kept wanting us to be more romantic, and I was not feeling it. But it really pushed our boundaries.
It did. Oh my god. Oh my god, this situation right now. Okay, great. How are you doing?
I'm good. A lot has happened. It feels like another lifetime since college.
I know. Well, you've done a lot. I always think like with filmmakers, it's like when they send you like a bio, like it's never quick. It's always like this big.
And the thing is, I don't even know how to define myself anymore creatively because I'm not just a filmmaker, and for a long time I thought I had to be because they want like a simple, clear, direct category for you. But now I'm kind of owning that, like, no, I also write books, and I write children's books, and I write poems, and like I'm gonna do whatever I feel like doing if I can.
Yay. That's crazy. So you like do you ever in the midst of all of this consider any other career paths outside of being a full-time writer?
Yes, because while we were doing our acting class, I was pre-med, and it always sort of
What?
comes back.
Oh my
It
god.
always sort of comes back in my life, but I actually ended up doing a doula training because I was
I
really
did too.
passionate. No,
Which one did you do?
carriage house birth.
Yeah, in Brooklyn?
Hmm.
Yeah, I was in San Francisco, so I did it at Natural Resources, but we would hear about you
Wow,
guys too.
I guess we have a lot to catch up on.
Did you end up doing any births?
So I actually finished my training right before COVID. So I haven't
Yeah,
attended any births, but I'm looking into like virtual support. I'm just really passionate about helping people give birth as a
amazing.
side thing.
Have you given birth?
No, I have not
No.
given birth.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm very terrified of giving birth.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting that we had that. I mean, I remember you being like very, like sort of above your years in terms of like gracefulness and just like you're very kind and creative and sort of like original.
Thank you so
Um,
much. I remember feeling just your authenticity and your energy and just like wanting to know
Aw.
you, even though we just like crossed paths like this.
Yeah.
But
And that teacher was really good too, that acting teacher we had.
yeah. Yeah, and also I think we got to do some like soul diving in that class, and like I think actually that class unlocked some path for me because we would share personal stories and get really vulnerable,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's what I ended up like basing all my work off of, my real life.
Have you done a lot of acting since?
No, I only acted in one of my films out of necessity because I had a camera for a weekend and like just wanted to shoot something and had to pull it together. And it's like very far away and you don't have to see me too much because I don't like being in front of the camera,
Yeah, you got it, got it.
as you can probably tell.
I started watching, so like tell us what a 360 movie is because I like clicked on the link and I was directed to YouTube because you told me like if you have a 3D headset and I didn't have a 3D headset. So I went over to YouTube and it was so cool to be able to like interact with the video. Um, so what they call it 360 because it's filmed at 360 and you
Yeah,
can
it's
explore.
basically the experience of a 360 film when you're in a headset is that you're inside the movie. So anywhere you look, you're inside the movie. You can look, literally anywhere. And if you're going to watch it on a phone without a headset, it's like you're looking through a portal, like a little window into a world. And like anywhere you look, it's still within that world. So when you shoot it, you actually have to hide. Like you can't be typically like just watching your actors and doing normal directing. You have to set the camera up and run away because it captures everything.
Oh
So,
wow.
like so many times like in a shoot I'll be like hiding under the tripod because there's just like a little spot that you can sit in where it won't see you. So
Amazing.
yeah, I actually really got inspired by it because it feels so much like life, and sometimes you just want to capture something from life, and you can, but then it brings up all these questions like how are you directing if everyone can look anywhere at all times? What are, like, how are you leading them through an experience? So I just thought it was fun.
Amazing. Which films had you seen that were 360 films where you were like, wow, this is impressive?
So in 2015, I was working on this project called Portals. It was this public art project where they had these giant shipping containers in cities around the world, and people would walk into one like in New York and talk to someone in Mexico, like through like a life-size video chat. And they wanted to do one at the UN and pair it with a Syrian refugee camp. And so we had this portal there, and next to it was some headsets with VR films that the UN had sponsored. They were documentaries in that same refugee camp. And so people would like talk to someone live, and then they would watch the virtual reality and feel like they're there. And even though it was a documentary, I just started like when I watched it, I was like, oh, like here I am in a bakery, and like here's like I almost feel like I could like smell the bread, and like how could you tell a story with this? And I just started getting really excited about this medium and tried to learn everything I could about it. And the question kept coming up, the question of presence, like are you really there? Because it's virtual reality.
Yeah.
And so I got really inspired by that theme of presence, and I started writing a story about a ghost who never felt present when she was alive, and now she's just haunting all the places she used to be in, wishing she was there and like dwelling in her memories. Because when you watch VR, if you look down, like you don't have a body because you're not in the film.
Oh
So
wow.
it creates this feeling of like being a ghost. So I tried to go with that.
And did that become Melting Waters?
That became Haunt. That was my
Okay.
first VR film, and that premiered at Tribeca in 2016.
Wow.
That
So
was the one I
that is
acted in and then shot it over a weekend.
so like you've done two VR films.
Actually, more. There was another one I did called Invisible, and it was about all the different ways people feel invisible. And I actually snuck into the Met and had an actor dressed as a security guard, and it was sort of like three different stories, and one of them was his, and people thought he was a real security guard, so we got away with shooting in there for a little while until
Whoa.
they kicked us out. So I did that one, and then I did another very short experiment where I snuck into the Museum of Natural History, and I took a little VR camera that just like has like a fisheye on one side and a fisheye on the other side, and I placed it on those dioramas of like animals, you
Yeah.
know. And so like if you look on one direction you see the animal, and if you look at the other direction you see my face, and like in the middle is just the glass. And then I did water melts with a dear friend and collaborator named Mary Evangelista.
Oh my gosh. So I was going to ask you, like, do you need a special camera for these? So
Yes,
which VR camera do you use? And also, like, what is a lower grade one that people could buy just to experiment with this during quarantine?
totally. So like the ones that I used for Haunt, it was 6 GoPro cameras that are put together in a special little rig. And then the one I used for water melt is also GoPro cameras, but it's like 20 GoPro cameras or whatever, and it's called the Yi Halo. I think it's
Ye
17. And so it's like a little um, sort of holder, and they have like all the little cameras around in a circle, and like one at the top.
That's incredible. What are you working on right now during quarantine? You said you're working on animations.
Yeah, so one of the things about water melts was that I've always wanted to do to work with animation, because as a kid I think I watched this like Swedish film where it was animated on top of live action. It just looked so dreamy, and
Do you remember the name of that
yeah,
film?
it was called Dunderklumpen. It was like this
Thunder Pumping.
environmentalist film,
Yeah.
so it always stuck in my head. And then there's this amazing animator. Her name is Maya Edelman. We always wanted to work together, and when the opportunity to make Water Melts came up, I was like, what if we did hand-painted animation on top of the live action in VR? That would feel like very dreamy. And she was like, yeah, I have no idea how we're going to do that, but let's try. And so she did these 2D animations, and we placed them in a 3D live action virtual reality, so that when you're watching it in the headset, you feel like you're in real life, but suddenly this animation appears next to you.
Awesome.
And so for like, I started getting really excited about animation because the possibilities are endless. You can just dream it up and then someone paints it, even though it's like very painstaking of a process. So I started looking for other animators to collaborate with, and during COVID, there was this group of female animators who were doing every week like a new theme related to COVID, like love in the time of Corona. And they would come up with like a 5-second or 10-second short animation each. And I was like, oh, if you need a storyteller, I can come up with like a micro story to fit in those 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And like, let's collaborate. And so I met some, and we were doing some things. And then we were like, let's make some other stuff together now, like while we have time. And so I'm working with this one animator in London and another animator in Manchester. And we've never met. We've only talked like over FaceTime. And we're brainstorming like stories related to COVID. And yeah, and I'm also doing a picture book with one of them, so we're really excited.
Super cool. What's the name of that group if we want to check out these animations that are coming out?
One of the, I think the Instagram is called Quarantine Collab, and then the other one, I can send it to you after, it's called Studio Desk Animation.
Okay. Is Studio Desk Animation also on Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So you're giving us sort of like an eye into one aspect of film that's exciting, which is like the VR stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that is something that is getting bigger and bigger in the film industry?
No, actually, I kept hearing constantly VR is dead, which is kind of like an unsettling thing to hear when you've been making it. But I totally get it. Like, people don't want necessarily to be in a headset, and like the technology isn't there for a hologram of a movie to just appear around you like we would like. But it was a very exciting and fascinating medium to explore, because it also helped me tell traditional 2D stories better, because I'm thinking so much about the audience and where are they going to look and what do they want to experience. And so I'm actually, like, one of my great loves is just comedy television. Like, I'm just a sucker for stories. Like, I don't need fancy technology or anything like that. But I think like some of the most exciting stuff out there right now is in television, because you have more representation. You have people like Issa Rae or Mindy Kaling, and like people telling their own stories. And hopefully there's just going to be more and more of that, and not just like one spot.
Yeah. What do you think, like in TV? I know I asked you about movies, but like, what do you think is the best stuff in TV right now that you think people should check out?
I think like those two that I mentioned, and I also think they're like, I don't know exactly how to put this, but like there are films like Portrait of a Lady on Fire that it's not necessarily like my go-to favorite film, but the female gaze is just so strong in it. It just feels so refreshing and so different. And I actually think what's really fun is what, sorry?
I want to watch that tonight. That's a good recommendation.
It's great. Yeah. And it's like, watch something like that and just be like moved by the painterliness of it. And then go watch this comedian, Eva Victor, on Twitter, do a parody of it. And that to me is like my perfect balance between like an artsy film and then someone making fun of it who also loves it. And
that's amazing. Oh my God. I love that you mentioned Mindy Kaling too, because she's another Dartmouth grad.
Yeah.
Have you met her?
No, I would love to meet her.
You have to meet each other. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Yes, I want to see you two meet.
That would be a dream.
What was it like to apply? Like, I guess it was, before this, you said your first film got into the Tribeca Film Festival in 2016. What was that like applying to that festival?
That was just so exciting, because it was all so new, like VR was new, and just but in 2019 it was like very happenstance. Like, it was like a miracle, honestly, because basically my co-creator and I, we were going through some very painful family medical situations, and that's what brought us together and inspired us to tell the story. And so the story just kind of like poured out of us, and the deadline was coming up for this Tribeca and Google Lab and award. And we were like, this is the only way we're going to get to make the film. Like, we have to try. And it was like, we made it in like within minutes of the deadline,
Yeah.
just because we were going through so much in our own lives. And we just did it. And we're like, there's no way we're going to get it. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we got it, and we were like, how are we going to do this? Because both of us were like, we were with our families, we were like caregiving, we were doing all this stuff. And it just like the stars aligned that like the month that we had to make it, it like worked, and we could, and we did. And we found out that we got into the festival like right before like things got really, really bad in each of our families. So we got to share the good news. We got to like kind of experience the festival as like a way to re-engage with life and to like do something celebratory.
Right. And travel. You and
Well, we
yeah.
were both in New York at the time. Actually, yeah, my co-creator was like coming from LA, but yeah, just like, and just get to engage with so many people, because one of the problems with VR is you can't share the film with too many people because not everyone has a headset.
Right.
So it was great to like share it and talk to people, and get their instant impressions.
Very, very cool. And then what is that like when you get into it? Like, do you get a letter in the mail? Do you get an email, a call?
We got a call. We did not know what the call was going to be about. We thought they
Yeah.
like maybe wanted some different file or something, because we had to turn in the film for like the award, the lab that we had gotten separately.
Yeah.
And so we thought it was about that. And then they just totally surprised us. And they were like, so we want to feature you at the festival. We were like, what?
Oh my God.
We weren't expecting it at all.
But you had already been in the festival in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So did a lot change about the process from the Tribeca end from 2016 to 19?
Yeah, in 2016 it was kind of like sort of punk, and everything was just sort of like thrown together, and you like wandered through this like crazy room with like projects that and now it was like totally streamlined. It was like there's a cinema for like the 360 films, and there's like an arcade for the more interactive projects, and like it's like timed, and everybody sits down and puts their headset on, and the movie starts at the same time for everyone. And like it was very amazing and streamlined, and like a beautiful experience that they made.
Lucas, who's an artist and he's based in Belgium, he goes, I only saw the short clip in Mark's story of the 360 movie and was like, what? Looks so cool. Sorry, I can't stay for the live. Watch
Aww.
tomorrow. That's fantastic. I'm so happy.
Awesome. I hope you enjoy. If you can watch it in a headset, do. It's definitely designed to be watched like that.
What other projects from the 2019 festival stood out to you where you met like, other filmmakers and you're like, that movie was amazing?
Well, we actually were paired with other filmmakers in our same section that we got to know a little bit, and they were really wonderful. One of them was called Dreams of the Jaguar's Daughter, and it was about a kind of abstract documentary, sort of mixing like little elements of fiction into documentary. And it was very like beautifully shot, and it's about immigration and the border. And then another one was called Harmonia, and it was sort of similar to our themes about loss and like hope, but it was done in a completely abstract way. Like it's just a song and visuals that go with it. And it was kind of nice to see something. It's as if someone had given us like the theme and said like go off and make something, and we both made something completely different. And
very cool.
And they were lovely.
Yeah, that's an interesting question about themes. Like, what did you see emotionally happening among the films in 2019 that you thought were common among the films you saw?
Well, people are always saying that VR sort of begs to explore themes of loss, and like our film explores anticipatory grief. And it's sort of strange. Maybe it's like because it's akin to being in a dream or something. There's something like removed about being in a virtual reality that like brings up thoughts of death or an alternate universe or whatever. But in our film, we really did try not to sit in the grief of it all, but we were really trying to capture like the golden moments and the like sublime things that you don't expect when you're dealing with something so difficult, but that are sort of like your lifeline through it all and that come from
Mhm.
love.
Right, because you're almost so, yeah. It's really interesting that you bring up like all the implications of VR. Like you're not you're when you're watching a VR film, you don't feel the presence of yourself. So that could either be like a profound sense of loss and isolation, or it could be this kind of like when you're so present and alive in your surroundings that you're not aware of your own small self.
Totally,
Um,
yeah. Disassociated or present, one or the other.
Lillian Kasha, who's a filmmaker in LA, asks, "Are you planning to switch over to animation for a while since COVID is killing the film industry for a while?"
Yeah, that really, it's a huge question. I'm grateful that I have a leg in or a foot in animation already, because yes, it's like a way to be creative and to make something when we're all at home. And also, I was just talking to some filmmaker friends about this today. Like, I think the landscape is really going to change. Maybe it's going to make room for more original ideas and not just franchises, because you're going to have to start brainstorming how to make a story happen when you can't have crowds maybe in your film,
Mm-hmm.
or you can't have certain locations in your film. Maybe like a lot of films set in one location are going to start happening. Like I
Yeah.
really don't know what it's going to look like.
I think I remember, maybe I'm remembering incorrectly, but I think I remember that two of the filmmakers who are on the live right now, that they said they like went to the Tribeca Film Festival 2020 like virtually. Is
Yeah,
that
they
okay? I'm
released
remembering the right festival.
they released a lot of
Yeah.
films virtually, and I think that's really awesome because like filmmakers are desperate to share their films. Like that's the whole point of making them, and it's so disappointing if you can't. So it was really awesome that people showed up and like watched them, became a virtual audience.
Yeah. Who, if you like, I love, like, I was so refreshed this morning to hear that your film was on YouTube. Like, if you had to give like three shout outs to female filmmakers who you feel like have not gotten enough attention that you want us to go find and watch,
Oh my
like,
God.
who would those be?
Okay, that's really hard. I might have to get back to you just because there's
Yeah.
so many also friends that I would want to shout out and
Yeah.
wonderful people. But yeah,
Or
let me get
movies
back.
themselves, like things that you've watched, like movies that you've watched that you're like, this is incredible. More people need to watch this.
You know, actually, there's something kind of cool happening right now. Miranda July is doing like a group film where she's asking like followers on Instagram, like, is anybody very good at texting? Is anybody in a mother and daughter situation? Can you send me a clip of yourself? And she's like putting together a film,
Oh,
like
cool.
crowdsourcing a film.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting and yeah,
I
something
love her.
fresh.
I like I was a huge fan of hers. She had this one performance like in that I saw her in Boston where she had like an amphitheater and like all the lights went out and it's like you've been here for 7 days and she passed out like it was like everyone got a ticket and like I went on stage as a yoga teacher. She was like, "Is there any surgeon in the audience?" It was like super
Oh,
interactive and
cool.
fun.
It sounds like
Um
the live version of this. And also I like things like
yeah,
that where you just don't know what to expect. Like I want to be surprised.
totally, totally. What's your morning routine like? You're like someone who you're full-time creative. Like you are not, doing like what is your morning routine to get yourself sort of like up and bright and alive for creativity?
That's such a crucial question, and morning routine is key because literally if I don't have one, I can just like fall into like a dream world in bed and just like daydream all day. So I
Yes.
think what I've learned at this point in my life is movement is key. I
What
need
do you
to
do?
I need to physically move for like my thoughts to move. And also nature if possible. So like if it's not raining and also if it's safe, like COVID times makes it harder, but I walk to this park near my house that's near the East River. And just being near the water is very soothing and inspiring. I think it's like a walking meditation.
Wait, what neighborhood do you live in?
Greenpoint, Brooklyn.
Oh, you do. Okay. Nice. Where have you been eating in Greenpoint? Like where have you been getting food?
My house.
Your house, yeah.
I love to cook actually. I'm like a plant-based 100% person. So
Amazing. How have you been like plant-based for a long time?
yes, I was like vegetarian my whole life and vegan the last like I don't know, some number of years. But yeah, I recently discovered a new way to make crispy tofu. and I've just been
Tell
eating
us. How
with
do you,
arrowroot flour.
you use arrowroot flour?
It makes it very crispy in the oven.
Oh, that's such a good idea. We grilled tofu the other day, actually. We just got a grill, which is like super, super nice.
Nice.
My friend Rebecca Sunshine, who's also uber creative, just joined. What other rituals do you have for creativity? Do you do like morning pages? Do you journal?
I do like free association writing because I think sometimes like things need to come out, and actually usually if I'm like creatively blocked, it's because like there's some emotional block in my life or something's happening and I just need to like get it out or see it on paper.
What is an emotional block? Like what is it sounds like something that you're very familiar with. So what does that feel like when you have an emotional block?
It feels like a stuck heavy energy, like a fog that I can't see through, and I think it comes from maybe being socialized not to express like all my needs or all my feelings, and maybe that's also why like creatively I need to have a channel because in my regular life I don't always feel like I can have a voice, so like it all goes in one place.
So like tell me that, like what is that process like of you have an emotional block and then you go to creativity for release? Like are you feeling like bored, stuck, tired and you just like open up your notebook and like start putting down film ideas, or what's the relationship between creative block and creativity?
It'll be maybe something like on one of those morning walks, as I'm walking, I'm sort of like something's coming up for me, like a thought, a concern, a worry, and it's just like happening over and over. And then I'll start like maybe finding a fictional parallel to it, like, oh, what if this was a story about someone who's going through this and this is how they broke through their obstacle. It's almost like a coping mechanism maybe.
That is so cool that you bring in the imaginative world. Like imagination helps you to kind of you're sort of fictionalizing your own emotional narrative.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then it puts you in the role of like filmmaker and creative person rather than in the role of like victim to my emotions.
Yeah, it's kind of like just trying to reclaim your own life.
Yes, yes. We all need that. We all need those tools.
Yeah.
So how do you organize your creative ideas? Like you are working on different projects all at once. Do you use like Google Docs? Is it a notebook?
Yeah, I think Google is the best because this is my notebook and it's just like filled with my own handwriting that I can barely read sometimes.
Yeah.
So like at least on Google I can search it, I can just like have it organized. So I just make different folders for every project, and then I'll make like Google Slides, which are for lookbooks, and I'll just throw in like inspiring pictures, like blocks of text that I want to get into. And sometimes it helps me to like create a pitch, like as if I was going to like, try to sell my project off even before I start writing it, just so I know like what the whole world is going to be.
Very cool. And then can you show us a little bit how you organize your actual notes? Like, are there titles on those pages, or what does that note
No, that's why I need Google, because this is literally like I'll
you
just like put like a star next to something and be like, this is important.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like
yeah.
have to find it later.
And so you use Google Slides. And so on
Google
Google
Slides for my like
yeah.
visuals and my lookbook, like mood boards. And I just use Google Folders, Google Docs just to organize. Like usually I'll have a doc with like all the brainstorming notes of
Yeah.
something of a project, and then I'll have a folder for pictures and like just kind of put it all
Yeah.
together in slides.
What percentage of the ideas that you come up with end up manifesting into projects?
Oh, such a good question. I actually have been feeling more and more like higher percentages, and I've started to create things even without knowing where they're going to go, whereas before I always kind of wanted like a place to put them. Like I just wrote this poetry book and like had just printed it for myself so I could just have it somewhere before I figured out like where to get it published.
Where did you print it?
I just printed it at this company called Blurb that lets you just like simply print a book, just so that I could have it and sit with it and see how it felt. And like I wrote this without like I don't have a plan for,
Publisher.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
no,
like you just made your own book. And how does
yeah,
it feel in your hands? Do you
it
like go
feels
up
good.
and
Now
edit
I want to publish it.
Did you just print one? Did you print one copy, or
I
did you?
printed one copy.
Amazing. So what did that cost? Just so we have really practical details.
Like $8.
Amazing. And they sent it to you by mail.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's such a good thing. I mean, how long did that take you to edit the poems before deciding to print it?
The poems had been like percolating for like, I'd written them over about a year and a half, or two. And then I just, one night sat and was like, just in a mood and just
Yeah.
edited them and printed.
Yeah. You know, it's a question that you don't have to answer because it's kind of personal, but how do you deal with like when you have financial fears, when you are like, okay, I'm going to spend the afternoon writing poetry, reading,
Yeah.
editing my poems, and then you get like a sudden fear of like, oh my God, am I going to have money to survive? Like, how do you process that?
That's huge. And, you know, a lot of people are very, very privileged in the arts and never have to think about that. And in my case, when I hit the point where I did have to think about it and was very afraid, I ended up really pursuing the branded like commercial world, because I found that people were willing to pay me for my creativity and like my ability to like essentialize themes or tell micro stories really work in commercials.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate to kind of get my foot in the door there and then get to keep working in that world.
Yeah.
But it's not like you can count on the commercial world, or you know, so I really like, I feel for anybody who's trying to make it all work, creatively and financially. Sometimes they just don't go together as easily as you would like, and you have to find sort of different avenues with similar skill sets. Like I'm a writer, so I can do copywriting, even if it's
Right.
not the same as like turning my emotions into a film.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your commercial work? Like, tell us, for instance, what happened with Calvin Klein. Like,
Sure.
the product.
Yeah, so that was really cool because they were looking for a filmmaker because they wanted more of a cinematic touch in this campaign, but they weren't going to tell you what the project was for. So I like interviewed for it without knowing what I was interviewing for. And I think they just wanted to get a sense of like my aesthetic and like my film language. And then once I got it, I showed up at this ad agency and they told me the client was Calvin Klein. And then they did like this really badass thing where they took two pictures, like turned face down, and slid them across the table to me. And they were like, these are who are in the commercial. And I turned it over and it was Lupita Nyong'o and Saoirse Ronan. And I was like,
Yeah. Like, these would be your
like,
actors.
yeah, and they're like, you're writing a piece for them, and it's a Calvin Klein fragrance. And I was like, oh my God, this is wonderful. And I had so much fun. And then from there, like I did a Seven for All Mankind campaign, and like it was for their 20th anniversary. So I got to play around with the theme of nostalgia and remembering your first. And like, I just try to find the story in everything.
Yes. What was the story in the Calvin Klein fragrance film?
It was the campaign was called I Am Women, and it was about having these like women mentors or like women inspirations. And so we were trying to find like very visual ways that they could be organically integrated into someone's everyday life. Like, you love Aretha Franklin, oh, like here's her record, and you pull out the label and you like see her picture, or you have like a little postcard of someone that you love with like a quote of them in your mirror, and just kind of trying to figure out like what feels normal and natural. But yeah, I don't know, like there's something, I see it as a challenge. Like if you tell me like, okay, this is how long we have to work with, this is the theme, and this is what we want to see. It's like a game. You just play with those elements.
I want to have a product so that you can make a commercial for it.
Oh yeah.
Do you find, it's a question about gender, and I think we're on that topic a bit right now. Kasha asked, do you find your male filmmaker friends have less of a struggle getting commercial work?
Yeah, you know, in film school, like our class was basically like 50-50 male female, and so much talent. And I did find in general, just it was easier for the guys to find sort of mentors who wanted to help them out, or like have this kind of boys club feeling, and like just it seemed easier from the outside. Like I don't know for sure. I do know that there's like a very fierce and wonderful camaraderie between my female filmmaker friends and I feel like when any one of us makes it big, like we're gonna pull the other ones in. So there's this like nice feeling of like, you know, we have a club as well.
I know I want you and Kasha actually to talk because she's like done such interesting stuff and she wants to make animations and I think she's already started on a few concepts. So it would be amazing if you
Oh,
two
I
would
would
work
love to
together.
meet you.
Yeah, you guys have to DM each other. Um, what about we talked a little bit? What about apps on your phone for making videos? Like if you're just home in quarantine, you're not a professional
Yeah.
filmmaker. What have
Okay.
you played with any that are good?
This is funny. So there was like a challenge for making a film at home during quarantine, and I was trying to come up with an idea, and I was thinking about how like I'm basically like going crazy by myself, and I wanted to do a film where like another duplicate of me appears, and we're like having an argument or
Yes,
whatever.
there's so
And I
much
was
of
like,
that actually. Like a lot of people are doing that kind of thing. And what are they
mhm.
using?
Well, I was like, oh, how do I do this? And I started looking into it, and the best resource was TikTok. And there were all these teenagers who like know all these tricks on TikTok, how to like make themselves appear. And I was like
Yeah.
really getting into watching their dancing, and I was like learning their tricks. And there's this app called Video Star that all these like TikTokers are using.
And
And
what
so
are
I
you looking
downloaded
for?
it. Huh?
Yeah. What does Video Star let you do?
It lets you like do like weird little effects like this, like you can like duplicate something, you can put like two clips next to each other and like half and half in the screen. I think you can do like some other like random effects, you can set things to music, and so it's like a really cool little app, and like thanks to TikTok now I know
I
how to use
love
it.
that. I love that. So did you end up making a film for that contest?
I'm working on it now.
Oh my God. So, so fun. What did you what was your favorite class at Dartmouth?
Oh, honestly, I think it was one of our acting classes. I think it was called like freeing the natural voice or something, and it was one of the ones where we would have to share personal stories, and like there
Yeah.
was just something. I think there was like an exercise in the beginning of before someone would share, they would take like 3 deep breaths, and the class would take the breaths with them, and it just felt so like supportive and beautiful, and I hadn't had that in any of my pre-med classes, and I think I
Right.
just like fell in love
Yeah.
with that experience.
Can you talk a little bit about like your family's background, like your Persian, Kurdish Persian?
On one side, yeah, my mom
Yeah.
is Kurdish Persian, grew up in Iran, and the Iranian Revolution kicked her family out.
Right.
And then my dad comes from Holocaust survivors from Hungary who made a life in Germany afterwards. So he was born in Germany, grew up in Germany. And you would think, like, how would they ever meet? But when my mom's student visa ran out in America, she tried to find a place to go, and Germany gave her a visa. So she moved to Germany, and she lived in a building a couple doors down from my dad, but they didn't meet the whole time in Germany. Like they would go to the same grocery store and stuff, but they didn't meet.
Wow.
And then years later, they had both like sworn off love after like bad experiences, and they were in America, and a friend of theirs from Germany thought that they would like each other and invited them both to the same cafe. And the rest was like instant history.
Wow.
Epic love story.
Amazing. And do you have
Yeah.
siblings? Are you
I have
only
a younger brother. Yeah, he was also interested in film for a while. He was actually Baz Luhrmann's personal assistant at one point, and
Oh
like
wow.
worked with Anthony Bourdain. But he actually had a big change of heart and wanted to go more with his passion of being a therapist. So that's what he's doing now.
Interesting. What did you think of Anthony Bourdain?
Oh, I mean, he didn't get. I don't think he like got to work with him because he was in post personally. But you know, very sad.
Yeah. Are you watching any mentor type online things for isolation inspiration like masterclass?
Oh, well, Sundance released a bunch of free great videos. I watched one by the writer of Inside Out, Meg, I forget how to pronounce her last name, but
That's a great movie.
yeah, I love Inside Out, and
Yes.
I love Pixar in general. Such tight storytelling as well, but especially just Inside Out is so emotional, literally about emotions.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so awesome. Okay, so
Good.
Sundance released. It's like filmmakers talking about what they do for inspiration.
They're like master classes, but just through Sundance. I think you can just find them on the website.
Are you on? Do you pay for masterclass?
No, I haven't done that, but I've heard good things. Like some people are
Okay.
sharing, like they'll like
Yeah.
share logins and stuff.
Yeah. Cool. So what does the rest of your day look like when you get off this call?
I'm going to work on another picture book idea with one of the animators, because that's something that can happen faster also than an animation, and especially with like the the stories that we're inspired by, like we want to do them now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting to try to write something, speaking of Inside Out, to try to write something for kids, but that still is like universal for any adult who would read it. It's kind of a fun
Right.
challenge.
It'd be kind of interesting to do like a what is Corona for kids. I mean, I feel like they must be so confused.
Yeah, I was just thinking the other day, like on my walk, I saw like a little kid, like, and they're like wearing their miniature masks, and they like look up at you and you're smiling at them, but they can't see it, and it must be so like cold and creepy.
Yes, very strange. So, very, very good. Thank you for popping in on this. You
Thank
gave us
you.
a lot of cool stuff. I'm gonna message you for like just recommendations on like what to watch so that we can give shout outs to anyone you love who's not getting
Okay.
enough viewership. And people, where can people watch you and what can we do to support you?
Oh, that's so nice. Well, you can watch my film, my Water Melts, that I made with Mary on Tribeca's VR channel or YouTube channel. It's the Tribeca Film Institute's channel. And you can follow me here at Lillian Film. And I try to post about my projects when they're done. And yeah, share them with the world.
Yeah, what's the dolphin that's your icon?
Oh, I just love whales and dolphins. And it's like a yin yang situation. Yeah. And actually, when we were shooting Watermelts, the last shot of the film, real dolphins came up in the ocean. So it was a nice moment.
Oh, so special.
Yeah.
And you'll be in Brooklyn for the foreseeable future?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what the future is anymore, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay,
be
good.
here.
All right. Well, thanks so much. It was so
Thank
fun to
you.
see you, and we'll
It's so
hope I
good.
get to see you in person soon.
Bye.
Bye.